Hey folks, welcome back. Look what I've got. A video game. Can you believe that all I have to do is take the circle trapped within this case and put it right into the gigantic fire hazard in my living room, and before I know it, I'll be whisked away to... Well, I don't know, because I haven't played this game yet, so I don't know what happens, but... I'm assuming Tokyo, probably. I love video games. It's one of my two personality traits, the other one being making videos about video games. Jokes aside though, I love talking about video games. It's what I do in my free time rather than, playing video games. But not all games are made equal. Not every game that comes out can be a large-scale, elaborate experience with tons of little things to point out and talk about. Some games are just solitaire, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in being solitaire. The fact is, the gaming landscape is different than it used to be, with indie developers existing and more different types of people playing video games than ever before. Way more games come out these days than they used to. And that's awesome. More games being released is a net positive overall, in my opinion. But some games are really small. Like I play through a game and I'm like, wow, that was awesome. I want to make a video about it. Okay. It bums me out that so many games get swept under the rug like this. I mean, how are people supposed to know that something's good if I don't tell them that it's good? So what the hell? I've decided that I'm going to do a little mini review extravaganza. I've compiled 4 different games that really don't have anything in common other than I think they're pretty neat. And I'm going to go through them all and review them. You could think of this as a sort of anti-garbage collection. I guess you could call it a... What the hell's the opposite of garbage? A treasure collection? That just makes me think of pirates. The first game we're looking at is Antichamber, or if you want to sound like a fucking idiot, Anti-Chamber. Am I right, guys? I've had this game for a long-ass time. I got it in the far-off, distant past year of 2013. Just coming in for a friendly reminder that 2013 was 9 years ago. Like I said, I've had this game for a really long time. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was one of the first games I ever bought on Steam. It's one of those games that's like a game, It's hard to describe Antichamber because it's so weird. It's mostly a walking simulator / puzzle game. You just walk around this big place, and every time you play it, it's a different experience. Pretty much every room has at least 2 paths you can take, which lead you to different puzzles, which usually require you to think abstractly about how to solve them. Like there's this room where you have to get up close to this panel thing and look through it, and it changes the entire room. The game also has really cool ambient music and sound effects. I would recommend playing this game with headphones if you can. Eventually you get this cube shooting gun, which you can use to open doors and stuff. And at this point, the game starts to feel more like a Portal-style puzzle game. Thankfully, though, the game still has a lot of unique puzzles. It doesn't just become a cube shooting simulator. If I had to give my best shot at describing this game in a nutshell, I would say it's like you're walking through a really immersive modern art piece at a gallery. Particularly this room with all the cubes that show you different things based on which side you're looking at. I feel like I've seen this exact thing at the AGO before. This game would be fucking nuts in VR, man, I'm telling you. Other than that, though, there's not a whole lot more to say about Antichamber. If you like games that are more based on an experience than gameplay, I would recommend it. It's a little pricey, especially considering it came out almost a decade ago. I mean, you can get Portal 1 and 2 for around the same price, so I'm really trying not to say anything that will piss off indie developers here. If it makes you feel any better, here's what I ate for lunch today. You're not the only one struggling. The next game we're looking at is called Unpacking. It's an indie game where you unpack stuff. It's the newest game of all the ones I've compiled here, coming out right at the end of 2021, and in record time, it's already on Xbox Game Pass. God bless. Unpacking is, a game about unpacking. Literally, the game consists of 8 different levels, and the goal is to unpack moving boxes until your house is completely decorated. It's what some people would describe as a cozy game, meaning that it's very chill and low stakes, and it has a very cute art style and low-key chill music. Video games are an amazing medium. You got this, and you got this, and they're both fun. But as I'm sure you can assume, there's a lot more to it than simply emptying boxes. You start to learn a lot about the main character of the game by playing it, because it has a very subtly told story going on. You start in 1997 and are tasked with unpacking one single room. At this point, you can assume that the main character is a small child unpacking her bedroom, and she's got all kinds of cute little 1997 things like cassette tapes, a Tamagotchi, a Polaroid camera, etc. And then by the last level, it's 2018, and you're fully moving into a big two-story house with presumably a wife and a baby on the way. The most interesting thing about unpacking, though, are the levels in between, because if you pay attention, you start to notice little hints about what's going on in the main character's life. Like, for example, in the 2010 level where you're moving into your boyfriend's apartment, the level is deliberately designed to make you feel like you don't have a lot of space to yourself. Worst of all is the fact that your university diploma, something that the main character is clearly very proud of, doesn't have any space anywhere in the apartment to put up on the wall, so you have to hide it away in your closet. What an asshole. He also doesn't give you any workspace. I guess you just have to do all of your digital art in the living room like a fucking animal. Thankfully though, by the next level, in 2012, you've clearly broken up with this guy. Because if you try to put a picture of you and him up on the corkboard in your room, you'll automatically put a pin through the guy's face. Take that, guy. Of course, I mean, you can only have so much high ground given that you're clearly moving back into your parents' house. Yeah, that would suck. Having to move back into your parents' house. Overall, I really liked unpacking. I was very pleasantly surprised by the little mini story going on there. Leave it to an indie developer to take something as objectively not fun as unpacking and make it a pretty fun task. I also really like that the game doesn't really tell you what anything is or where anything goes. You kind of have to figure it out yourself. There are even some items that don't belong in the room you're in. Like you'll be in your bedroom and you'll open a box to find tampons, which you gotta put in the bathroom. And also other examples that are not tampons. My only real gripe with the game is that it's too short. You can beat this game in a couple hours and it doesn't have a ton of replay value. Honestly, if the developer made a sequel of sorts where you play as like a moving company unpacking people's houses with a ton of different levels, that would be a hit. I would play that all day long. But as it is, unpacking is a fun little low-stress indie game. If you have Xbox Game Pass, download that shit onto your computer, bro. It's $0.00. What do you have to lose? The next game we're looking at is called Skatebird. I've mentioned Skatebird before, and that's because I've been following the development of this game for a long time. Because, I mean, look at it. It's a skateboarding game with little birds. I'm only human here. I'm not as hardcore a fan of the Tony Hawk games as some people, but I definitely got a lot of mileage out of Pro Skater 2 and 3 and Tony Hawk's American Wasteland for the GameCube. So trust me, I've done my share of pop shove-its. But obviously, when you make a skateboarding game, it's going to be compared to Uncle Tony, because I mean, it's kind of the industry standard for skateboarding games. So does Skatebird live up to that? Well, in short, no. But let's not jump to conclusions just yet. Or should I say, let's not ollie to conclusions just yet. So Skatebird has you shredding around 5 different levels, each of which have bird NPCs standing around who you have to approach to start missions. And once you've completed enough missions, you can move on to the next level. The quote-unquote story in the game is that you, a bird, are upset that your owner, who everyone refers to as Big Friend, no longer seems to enjoy skateboarding, due in part to their shitty job that takes up all their time. So the goal of the game is basically to cause enough discord that, something will happen. And honestly, if you or anyone you know has ever owned a bird, I'm sure you will agree that solve problem by breaking shit is traditional bird behavior. Now here's the thing, this game has gotten its fair share of rather mixed reception. And after playing through it a couple times, I can honestly say that this game doesn't deserve all the bullshit it gets. Some of it, yes, but not all of it. I like to leave the good stuff for last, so let's first go through all the not so great stuff. First off, the gameplay, it needs a little bit of work. I don't think the controls are as bad as a lot of people seem to, but the thing is that Skatebird is a lot slower than Tony Hawk, which is something that I think the developer should really consider tweaking. The nice thing is the game is made to be extremely accessible to really any level of ability. You can make it so you don't skate as fast, you can make tricks more easy to pull off, you can make it more difficult to bail off your board, etc. You can make this game as chill as you really want. My big issue is that I think it needs to be possible to go more in the other direction. Like, I have nothing against developers putting options to make their games easier. I get it, you want to appeal to the widest demographic possible. I just wish that Skatebird could be made to be a little bit more tighter, less floaty, faster. Like, you can make this game a lot easier, I just kind of wish that you could also make it more challenging, you know? And look, I'm not just gonna sit here and be like, game need be hard to be good. I just think if you're gonna give me the option to make it such a chill experience, why not give me the ability to make it more akin to Tony Hawk? To the game's credit, there are a lot of benefits to being able to tailor the experience to your liking. For example, I really like that you can turn off the mission timers. Call me a bitch all you want, but I've never been a huge fan of time constraints in really any game. I much prefer to take my time finishing a task and be happy with the result than try to finish it as quickly as possible. That said though, given that skateboard games have always been prime real estate for cheat codes, I kinda wish that skateboard had menu options that let you do stuff akin to the stupid cheat codes that were in Tony Hawk.
Oh, Ben, using cheat codes is bad. You should play the game as the developers intended.
Look me dead in the fucking eyes and tell me that you didn't use the moon gravity cheat in every Tony Hawk game. Yeah, that's what I thought. Maybe you should think before passing judgment on your fellow man. In all honesty though, I disagree with the apparent consensus that the main issue with Skatebird is the controls, because in my opinion, the biggest issue is the level design. Don't get me wrong, in general the level design is fine, but there are a lot of small things that really drive me fucking insane sometimes. For starters, there are so many little bumps in the ground that don't need to be there. One major example are these big stupid ramps you're supposed to be able to use to get up higher. The reason I hate these things is because you have to go up them very slowly, otherwise your bird will bounce off the edge of the ramp and bash into the railing, causing you to bail off and have to start again from the bottom. I don't see why you wouldn't make it so that you can just cruise up this ramp. I don't understand why you would want to halt the player's movement in a skateboarding game. Another example is in level 5, there's this little carpet here, and rather than just zooming through it, the edge of the carpet has a bump that you have to jump over. This means that every time I try to go through here, this happens. Okay, well that was a bad example. But you know what, I'm not all about being the negativity guy. There's a lot to love about Skatebird, so let's talk about that. First of all is the music. This game has a great soundtrack. Obviously none of it is like big budget, professionally produced music, but the developer put together a track list that is very reminiscent of old school Tony Hawk soundtracks. It's got a mix of hip hop, ska, punk, all the good stuff. And for those of you who are like, the music in Skatebird is bad and repetitive, like, bro, just go on YouTube or Spotify or whatever and search up Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 soundtrack. Honestly, I shouldn't have to tell you that. It's first grade stuff. Do you want me to chew your food for you too? Like, come on, man. There's a lo-fi hip-hop beat in here that samples a nature documentary about birds of prey. How fun is that? Other than the music, I mean, this game has so much personality to it, you know? Honestly, I never read any of the dialogue, but I do like all the customization options that this game has. You can change the species of your bird, give him clothes, change his board. Sure, you have to unlock everything, but nothing's really a pain in the ass to unlock. You just have to find them throughout the levels. I also like that you're not limited to being a parrot. You can be a pigeon, an owl, a bird of prey. This game nails it in the bird diversity department. When it comes down to it, Skatebird isn't perfect. The game feel could use a little bit of work, and it has a few bugs. And worst of all, the birds aren't even real, so they can't even eat any of the bugs. Basically what I'm trying to get at is that this game doesn't deserve all the bullshit it gets. It's far from perfect, yes, but it's still a fun game, and the developer clearly has a lot of love for it because they've been patching it and adding stuff since release. There's even a whole new patch coming out soon with a new level and new collectibles and stuff. Overall, as bird games go, this one's pretty good. And that's only partially due to the fact that I can't think of any other bird games right now. And there you have it, folks. I talked at length about Skatebird and didn't make a single comment about how Tony Hawk's last name is a bird. Now, I know I talked a whole lot about that game. In retrospect, I probably could have made a whole video about Skatebird. You've got one more game to look at, and trust me, it's a... I can't think of a gardening joke or a zombie joke. You already know what it is, baby. You clicked on the thumbnail. Maybe. I mean, I guess that's not... The thumbnails are pretty small, to be fair. The final game in this big YouTube event we got going on here is the classic PC game, Plants vs. Zombies. Otherwise known as the only game my mom has on Steam, and she has 160 hours in it. Plants vs. Zombies was developed and published by PopCap Games and released in 2009. PopCap Games is also known for Bejeweled, Peggle, and that's it. They only got 3 games. We all know about PopCap Games. Even if you've never played video games, you probably know about them. All their games were available as free trials that came on your mom's Windows Vista computer, and it was the only good thing about Windows Vista. But enough about PopCap, okay? We're talking about their crown jewel, which is ironically not the game that they made about jewels, but actually Plants vs. Zombies. Plants vs. Zombies is a tower defense game that, as I said, was released in 2009 and spawned a whole series including Plants vs. Zombies 2, a mobile-only sequel. Fuck loved that game. And also astoundingly a side series of online competitive multiplayer third-person shooter games, none of which I've ever played, so that's a story for another time. In this game you play as a faceless, nameless homeowner whose house is being invaded by zombies. Your only line of defense against said zombies are plants that perform a multitude of different battle tactics. You got the sunflowers that give you sunlight to plant more units, you got pea shooters that attack the zombies, walnuts that act as shields, and that's just scraping the surface, man. That's only 3 of a total of 56 different plants you can use as the game goes on. The game is broken into 5 different worlds, each with 10 different levels, and the world changes up how the game works on a fundamental level. It's pretty cool. The first world is in the daytime, and it's standard Plants vs. Zombies. Plant sunflowers, plant pea shooters, stop the zombies from getting to your house. That's all there is to it. The second world takes place in the nighttime, and because the sun isn't out, the sky doesn't give you sunlight, and you get an entirely new cast of mushroom-themed plants to use. You got a hypno shroom that turns the zombies against their own kind, you got scaredy shroom who gets scared and stops shooting the zombies when they get close to him. Worlds 3 and 4 take place in your backyard, where you have a massive pool. Here you're required to put down lily pads for the plants to sit on in the water. And when I say massive, I mean massive. Like, look at this pool. It takes up 1/3 of your entire backyard. This was right in the middle of the recession, too. The main character of this game must be doing pretty well for themselves. Man, when people say eat the rich, I didn't know they were talking literally. The final world takes place on your roof and is by far the most challenging of all the levels because you have to individually place down flower pots on every single square that you want to plant on. The zombies also come in a bunch of different varieties that do different stuff. You got the normal zombies that just come at you, but you also got pole vaulting zombies that can jump over your walnuts, zombies carrying screen doors that protect them, super fast quarterback zombies, disco zombies that summon a bunch of backup dancers, zombonis that pave a bunch of ice so that bobsled zombies can come through, and so many more, man. It's nuts. I mean, I could go on about the mechanics, but I feel like you've gotten the gist by now, right? Surely you've played this game, right? Everybody's played. What? Why not? I absolutely love Plants vs. Zombies, man. It's such a simple concept, and yet it's so fast-paced, strategic, and fun. The only real criticism I can even think to have about it is that if you know what you're doing, it's pretty easy. Which sounds like such a dickhead thing to say. Yeah, my only real issue with Plants vs. Zombies is that I rule way too fucking hard at it. I feel like it's kind of a redundant statement. The game is easy once you get good at it. Like, yeah, that's true of literally everything. All I'm saying is that I find myself kicking the zombies' asses most of the time, even later in the game. I suppose I could remedy this by just, handicapping myself. Lots of people do that to make games harder. But I mean, look at this. They stand no fucking chance. There are small countries whose military probably couldn't penetrate my defenses here. On another note though, I've played a ton of this game, but I've only ever really played it on my phone, so I play it on silent, since, I'm not gonna play a mobile game with the sound on. I wasn't raised in a fucking barn. But because of that, it has just been recently brought to my attention that the music and sound design in Plants vs. Zombies goes unfathomably hard. The sound effects are so satisfying and immersive, the music gets faster and more intense the more zombies there are on screen, but most of all, listen to the music that plays in the conveyor belt levels, man. Track from the soundtrack of Plants vs. Zombies? Why did nobody tell me about this? Honestly, I feel like a dumbass sitting here and telling you how much Plants vs. Zombies fucking rules, but you know what? It had to be said. If you haven't played Plants vs. Zombies, do yourself a favor, man. This game is awesome. Well, folks, there it is. My most ADHD video to date. I love all 4 of these games, and I had a fun time talking about them. And you know what? I hope that you had fun watching me talk about them. But now, the video has come to an end, and I got nothing. So, Arthur, just put something on the screen here. I hope he didn't put anything that makes me look bad. I feel like he's been kind of mad at me lately, you know?